What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Metalcore Nerds. I am your host, Sean Mott, and we're here to talk about WandaVision Episode 4 with my co-host, Tyler Small. What is up, my man?
I've been seeing weird spoilers, but I'm good. I've been seeing spoilers that were things we predicted already, but then a lot of them are fake. So we'll have to come back to that later. But that was my first thought when you asked how I'm doing, because that happened right before we hopped on.
I'm not gonna lie, I may have seen a thing on YouTube that spoiled a part of next week's episode for me, but I'm not going to share because I don't want to spoil it for anyone else.
Okay. I won't say what I saw either then.
Yeah, so we won't talk about that. We will not theorize on it because we kind of know an answer. But so this episode, wow.
Yeah.
All I have to say is anyone who is like, because I heard some podcasts talking about this week and they're like, did you hear that the budget was like $250 million for this? And they're like, I don't see how. And it's like, now you see how, because now the MCU is back 100% now.
Yeah, that was my first thought was when that episode started was like, now I feel like I'm watching a Marvel movie. Like right then, you know what I mean? It felt like the intro. It felt like the intro. It could have been like that. Could have been. You could have leaked the first scene in this episode and called it a leaked first scene
movie.
Marvel 2, and people would have believed.
Yeah. So I've been very bad at saying this in the recording version. I've been putting in the text, but spoiler warning because we're about to talk about the episode in length and talk about what we may have gotten wrong or partially right so far. So big spoiler warning, especially if you are new to the channel. This is the first video version of the podcast I've been doing for this series. Just trying it out, see if people like it more, see if people go to the YouTube a little bit more. So if you like what you see, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, or if you are listening to this in audio or prefer audio podcasts, it's available everywhere you find audio podcasts, and subscribe there as well, because that helps a lot. I'm trying to grow this thing and hopefully get like sponsorships and stuff like that, so I can somehow make money talking about nerd stuff. That's my goal. We'll see if it happens. I don't really know. Yeah, it's definitely the dream. So we'll see what happens. I look up to a lot of nerd podcasts, and one day if I ever got to be guests on those, or kind of be quote unquote colleagues with them, that's a little bit of the goal. It's my end goal, I guess, if it can evolve into something like that.
But I'm happy to be here, because this is like, I listen to those podcasts and I get frustrated listening to them because I'm like, I have such better ideas and theories than these guys, and I was like, but I don't have a platform for this. So thank you for giving me a platform so I can just like vent out all of my Marvel knowledge and nerding that I get stagnated unless I can sneak it into a song without the band knowing.
True. Yeah. I mean, honestly, this whole process has been a pleasure. It's been the first after show this podcast has been doing of many that are coming this year. After this, Falcon and Winter Soldier is coming, that I'm doing a after show with actually Billy Sweet. He is in the band Set Sights. I haven't really announced that yet, but that's set to go. I'm probably going to be doing a Snyder Cut like podcast after that drops in mid-March. So March will be a pretty packed month. Obviously, there'll still be WandaVision stuff going on, at least for the first week. I think maybe even the second week. So that'll be and I haven't talked to you about this, but the finale might have an extra guest in just to bring in an extra insight into it. So we'll see how it goes. I'm contemplating things still.
No, I'm always down to like have just like, I just want people to listen to this and be like, I can't believe these guys all have sex. Like, it's just like, because we're just like throwing just shit around that no one should have in their brain. Like, people are like filing taxes, and I'm just like, yo, so like when the planet exploded, like, I was thinking that fucking Tosh stand up when he said, like, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Don't worry about it if you don't. But he basically is making fun of nerds, and he's just like imitating one, being like Superman's origin. He's like, well, when the planet exploded, and he does this voice, and that's all I can think of anytime I catch myself ranting too long about comics or Star Wars. I'm just like, I'm that dude. Totally that dude.
When Sam asks a question about something, which is rare because she knows she gets a way too long of an answer than is really needed.
Or you get like, well, first, let me tell you the entire 10-year backstory before I answer your question.
Yeah, and then she goes, imagine if you used your knowledge for something that means something.
Dude,
And I'm like,
I
yeah,
had this
I know.
conversation today on the phone with my guitarist because we were talking about like I was talking about all this stuff I want to learn and all these programs I want to learn for music and art and all this stuff. And I was like, dude, it's just so hard for me to like really wrap my head around stuff unless I really care about it. He's like, yeah, dude, it's just like I'll sit there with you trying to show you something for an hour and you're just like, but like I ask you a Marvel question and I feel like I get like a dictionary, like, spit at me. And I'm like, imagine the power you would have if you could do that with like real life shit. And I was like, oh, I know. I've been getting told this since I was in second grade. I know.
All right, so this episode is jam-packed with stuff, so let's get into that. So
yeah,
opening scene, we see, I guess for the second time or the third time, the return from the blip of Hulk's snap. But it's the first time we see it in more of a real world scenario. Because in Endgame, it's like the birds came back and Hawkeye's wife called him and it was so nice, and everything. And then in Spider-Man Far From Home, it was kind of like a joke, like the band people came back and got pegged in the head with a basketball and stuff like that. But this was like pure and utter chaos. So yeah. When Sam started realizing what was actually happening, she started screaming. And I've talked about it seemed like she's kind of like whatever about the series. She was like, it's like fine, but like I don't really care, But she was like screaming. She's like, did you know this was gonna happen? And I'm like, I had my jaw was on the floor. I was like, I had no idea. And it was just like she doesn't react to like anything like that. Most of the time, she's like hard to impress. So like her reaction like that made me so excited because I was like, they're doing this because I don't watch it until later on the day on Fridays. Like I don't watch it until like night, like 9 or 10 at night. And all my friends are like, this episode's crazy. It's like the same thing we have with Mandalorian. They would tell me their general thoughts, but nothing that would give anything away. And my friend was like, there's like 3 or 4 like holy fuck moments. Like serious. I was like bigger than the Ultron name drop moments. And they're like,
oh yeah,
way bigger. And I'm like, what? And the craziest thing is that like I've been talking to my friends about this, when I was like writing the notes and they were like, oh dude, let me know when you watch it. I want to talk to you about it and everything, which I think is so cool that I have like a group of like friends that are like, yo, hit me up when you finish it because I want to talk to you about like what could possibly be happening and stuff. I love that. And they're like, the interviews I watched before, Paul Bettany said it gets crazy at like 6 or 7. So if it's not like crazy yet, like what is crazy?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, probably like, I don't know, Quicksilver or something.
I don't even think that's that crazy compared to what we saw this week. I mean, a little.
I mean, I don't know. Like,
it's comparable, I guess.
Jump the gun, but like, I don't know. I would call it crazy as far as like exposure goes. I would call it crazy as far as answers go. But did we see anything really that wasn't already kind of in our own speculation? Like, I felt like a lot of this episode was either affirming our own questions or our own answers.
Or adding more questions.
Yeah. Well,
it was like,
I feel like that's what the show's about.
Yeah, it answered a bunch of questions, then also gave us a new set of questions.
Yeah.
But the blip thing I did not see coming.
No, that was really cool. For sure.
So we learned that, and I think we talked about this before, that Monica is the daughter of Maria, which we saw in Captain Marvel. It's just her grown up because that happened in the 90s. So that's how time works, And
so we think.
Yeah. True. So we learned that Maria died during the blip of cancer that apparently she was like good of, and then it came back. So imagine that you come back from being gone for 5 years, thinking you fell asleep for 20 minutes, and then you realize you were gone for 5 years, and then your mom died during it. Yeah. Insane. Like the amount of range this actor put in this episode with not that much like dialogue really is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Honestly. And then we kind of, it confirms when the series takes place. Because obviously we knew it was after Endgame. It had to be after Endgame because Vision is dead and Wanda was gone during the blip. So like how could have happened in that time? It has to happen after Endgame. So we kind of learned it's like 3 weeks-ish after Endgame, which means this series takes place before Far From Home. And in Far From Home, Spider-Man does ask, where are the other Avengers? What is Captain Marvel doing? Obviously, she's in space doing space shit. Like, where's Thor? He's also in space doing space shit. And they're like, Doctor Strange, busy. Maybe this is what he was busy doing. I guess we'll find out later on that one. But we go to Sword headquarters, which is obviously, it's in that like crazy like Corp Canaveral kind of looking place, and the inside kind of looks a lot like this Triskelion did in Winter Soldier, like having the big sword logo and everything. And then we kind of find out that Maria Rambeau founded Sword, most likely after her meeting with Nick Fury in the 90s in the events of Captain Marvel. So, and we kind of learn that Sword has been around that whole time, because you find out that the pager that Nick Fury gave to Captain Marvel had the Sword logo on the back as well as the Shield logo. So it kind of makes sense. And they kind of explain that like, oh, they were doing space missions, but like everything's grounded and they're more gearing towards like AI and robotics.
Which explains the change in the name.
Yes, where it's like, yeah, sentient weapon instead of sentient world. Yeah. Or whatever it was before
I had one friend who's a massive like Captain Marvel, like obsessed with Captain Marvel. And like everything surrounding Captain Marvel. So she's been like waiting for the Sword thing forever. And when she saw that originally, she was throwing a fit about it. And I was like, I don't think it's gonna like really ruin or change as much as you think. It's probably just a redirect for whatever they're focusing on right now, you know?
Exactly. I agree too. And they mention that they're creating things, and you see that they're building a ship. And since this happens Far From Home, like, could that ship they're building the ship that we see Nick Fury on? Like that ship might be the peak.
That ship he was on looked about 4 times the size of the fucking building that they were building the ship in. I don't know, but maybe.
I didn't think
about the time thing. I'm trying to act cool, like I knew that, but I did not put that together that it took place before Far From Home. And now my brain is just like, you just dropped me down a whole fucking other like pitfall of just I couldn't have thought of.
Mostly the Doctor Strange thing is kind of the biggest tie there, I guess. But I guess we kind of really need to see what happens after to see what the real implications are going to be, obviously, because the only things we've seen post Endgame are Far From Home and the 4 episodes of this. So we don't really have much to go off of. So I guess we'll see how it really affects everything.
However, it ends, it's going to have massive implications. That's all we can probably assume.
I would imagine, yes, for sure. But like, what else is Sword creating? You know, Hayward mentions creating. Like, are they doing the Weapon Plus program? Like, obviously, most known for Weapon X. Like, is that how we're going to get Wolverine? Like, are they creating Sentinels? They mentioned AI and robotics. Like, is this the beginning stage of like the Sentinel program? Like, it makes me question, especially the way he acts. And we'll get a little more into that coming up next. Of, you know, she comes back, says she's grounded. There's no real space mission. We don't really know what she did in space, other than she kind of like, she seemed like she was an astronaut. So, but the big question also we don't know is like, did she already have powers?
Yeah, I was about.
Is this how she gets powers?
That was implied. Someone. Well, the only thing that made me think, does she already have powers already, was that she like didn't die when Wanda chucked her through 5 walls and out of the barrier and across the field. Like,
she seems pretty unfazed. I heard other people saying like, well, it could be that her magic, the red like hex magic around her was protecting her, but still she went through 4. It's so funny because like a video broke it down. It's like she literally went through 4 walls. She literally broke the 4th wall, because it was like living room wall,
and that was what got her kicked out.
Yeah, nursery wall, the fence, and then the last wall. Yeah, so it's like this episode is very meta. We're gonna get into how more meta it was going forward. But she says she's grounded. Hayward sends Monica on this missing persons case in New Jersey, which seems very strange. That's like, I'm gonna get into a little more. That's like the next question is who's Jimmy Woo's missing witness? Because I think that is the key to everything, that how this started. Because it seems a little weird that like he even said like, you should be in my spot. Like, obviously she's like a star agent at Sword. Like, her mom built the fucking company. So to be like, hey, you're going to New Jersey on a missing persons case to hook up with the FBI, it's a little bit weird, you know?
I thought the missing person was like supposed to be Wanda.
I don't think so.
It was a joke, and it was like not a joke, but a ruse.
So I'll go like, so obviously she goes and meets with Jimmy Woo, which because if everyone was saying like, oh, is he with Sword now? Did he move from FBI to the Sword? But now we see no, he's just still with the FBI. But
he learned the card trick finally that Ant-Man taught him.
I had that in my Easter egg list, but yes, that was very awesome. Okay. No, you're fine. That was an awesome moment. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, someone brought up too was like, yo, it's like they should just have a whole series with him just like X-Files and like weird MCU shit. Like, and then just I don't know, but that
would be so sick.
But he's just such a great character.
Yeah, he's awesome. I love him as an actor in general. Honestly, he's really funny and like charming and just like I don't know. I love seeing him on screen. It's great. So they meet up with him, and then we see that he mentions the missing. This is why I'm going in with the missing persons case. Okay, so he mentions the missing persons who is obviously in Westview, and they go and meet with the cops who are like, Westview doesn't exist, even though they're standing in front of the sign that says Westview, and they're like, it doesn't exist. So he was saying that like anyone who was in contact with him or knew him, well, he did say him too, and that they didn't know who he was anymore. Like they forgot who he was, and like and it especially was evident that the cops didn't know what Westview was, even though they were right in front of a sign that said Westview.
Well, and then there's the highway sign too, but
exactly.
They implied that like. So I thought that was like she just fabricated Westview out of thin air. So it wasn't like so maybe I took that the whole wrong way. I was taking it as like she created the entire town and like the cops were like, this place doesn't exist. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like,
maybe, but the only thing with that is there's people who live there and you can see the houses, and it's not like the house is transformed in the bubble. It's like normal houses. You know what I mean? So it's,
I guess that's true.
It made it seem like it was a real town, but like, because even Monica said, like, oh, it seems like these people have select amnesia. Like there's like a spell on them that's making them like, oh yeah, it's not real. Even though it's like, you know what I mean? It'd be like if I had a spell on me and they're like, oh, Tyler isn't real. And I'm talking to you right now. I'm like, yeah, I don't know who Tyler is. You know, kind of like that thing.
You don't think it's like Vision's dead body that they're referring to?
I have some theories, maybe, but that makes me. I feel like it's no one. I think it might be whoever Ralph is.
Ralph. Because I was about to say Ralph.
Because when they bring up the board with all the pictures, there's two big things. Agnes doesn't have an ID, and Dottie isn't on there. The thing with Dottie is maybe they didn't get to putting Dottie up there, or maybe it's on purpose. That's kind of hard to tell, but Agnes definitely didn't have an ID. And it's like, if everyone else has their picture up and they're all ID'd besides her, obviously she is a main player in this. But I think that the fact that I think it's Ralph is because if we would have seen, if Jimmy Woo would have seen the missing person, he would have just been like, that's the missing person. You know what I mean? Like he would have been like, that's the person I'm looking for. Rather than being like, I don't know where he is. You know, he didn't say that, but like, I feel like if he saw the person, he would have brought it up, especially if they have the full board and everything, you know what I mean? Or they're watching the broadcast themselves.
So I don't, you know what I mean? I feel like Ralph, it could be something insane. Like it could be fucking Strucker. Like, you know, it could be not, and it could be something more grounded.
He's dead.
Well, yeah, so is Vision.
Yeah, true. Because it has to be someone important enough that Wu left California to come to New Jersey. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's going to be like a big crazy reveal like that, but it could be. I do think it's who's. This is another question later, but I think it's the key to how Wanda ended up in Westview and started this whole thing there. Like, because he was obviously there in witness protection. So, and like, obviously Wu has dealt with Ant-Man under his whole like house arrest thing. So it's like, obviously Wu is kind of trusted with these like more higher profile type fugitives or whatever, you know. Technically Ant-Man was a fugitive, but
so do you want, is this something you want to get into right now, or do you want to hold this off for later in the stream?
Of what?
Like who the missing person is?
No, that's because the craziest theory I saw, and I did not come up with this, I will not take credit for it, it's Magneto.
Huh, I feel like that's too big.
It is very big. That's why I was like, man, that would be insane. But like, I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be that big of a reveal.
So well, my brain just goes to try to think through the past, 10 plus years. Who have we already seen who could be in witness protection?
Yeah, I don't know. And there was another. I saw that like, oh, what if it's Donnie Birch's secret employer from Ant-Man and the Wasp? Because he was trying to get the lab for someone. A lot of people were like, oh, I bet it's a MODOK or something. But like,
what if it's MODOK? What if it's Killian in witness protection? I don't fucking know. AIM. I don't know.
Oh,
he didn't die.
Did he? I think he did die. I think he exploded.
He blew up, but I don't know. I kind of felt like one of those things the MCU could have been like, nah, he left. I don't know. Maybe it's some. I guess where I'm torn is like, is it someone we know or is it someone we haven't seen yet?
Yeah, that is the big question. Like, obviously, everyone's popular theory is still Mephisto. So it's like, oh, what if this person is Mephisto, but Jimmy Woo didn't know it was Mephisto. Like, it was just someone who got in trouble at a federal level, and it happens to be Mephisto or something.
Or they did everything exactly the way they needed to get close to Wanda. Rather that because it's like what I've noticed, it's like anything that they do that catches us off guard. It takes 15 minutes of a flashback sequence to show us whatever justification they want to give us for how this got there.
True.
So, and like with what we just saw, everything we've been wondering, a good chunk of it at least. Some of our theories I felt like were validated. Some were like, oh, like it was like the whole beekeeper thing. We were overthinking that to the max, but it's like that. But it just makes you think of that. That's typical MCU was the beekeeper thing, where they're like, we're going to make it so fucking weird, and then it's going to be the simplest answer, And so it almost makes me like afraid to voice too many theories because I feel like I'm going to be too because I feel like they're fucking with me right now, and I don't know.
A little bit, yeah. So, obviously Darcy comes in, which is like another thing that was explained. Like it revealed that Darcy was the person taking the notes at the end of episode 1. But she's not a sword agent either. Like Sword just brought in these experts in different fields like AI and, she's obviously an astrophysicist and stuff like that. And I love seeing her character come back because Kat Dennings is just hilarious.
Yeah,
she's such a smart ass. And I saw some people kind of like criticizing how fast she found out that but the way they explained it makes sense because the CMBR radiation, it dates back to the Big Bang, but it's also how that TV static is made. Like, so it explains why the barrier looks like TV static. It explains why it's picked up on that TV frequency because that's scientifically actually how that happens. So for me, like thinking it was too fast, I was like, the way that it's set up, like in real life, like makes perfect sense. Like,
well, also like her gear was set up for her when she got there, so it was already sitting there picking shit up.
She just plugged in the two scanner things, and she saw stuff getting picked up, and she figured it out. Like, it's almost like the Tony Stark solving time travel in 5 minutes thing in Endgame, and they're like, to me, they kind of set it up that he was working on it for a while, and then that's why he was like, oh, holy shit, I figured it out. Not just like, obviously they only showed us that like 30 seconds or whatever, but it made it seem like, because he's like, oh, run one more test. You know what I mean? Like, obviously he's been doing this for a while.
Well, yeah, and like even when he's telling Ant-Man why it won't work, he knows way too much about time travel already. He knows all the reasons time travel can't work. Like, you don't just know all that and if you haven't researched it or fucked with it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
The Deutsch proposition with and he's like, it's almost like it was almost like he was frustrated because he had fucking been through this 20 times. And he's like, it doesn't fucking work. Because if it's Tony Stark, like we already know, he learned quantum physics overnight, remember? Yeah. So it's like, that's his whole thing.
Yeah, he's a genius. Like that's it. Yeah. Like that's it. So on to the next part, the craziest part of this episode. Marvel just subtweeted all of us on fucking Twitter with this episode. The dry erase board is us. It's like every question we've brought up or any nerd podcast covering WandaVision has brought up. It's like literal thumbnails from new rock stars. Like we've all been asking these same questions. They were just like, how smart are they to know that we were going to think of these questions? Like that's how well they know their fan base.
No,
that was it's insane.
Wait, did they tweet that actually?
No, I was just saying like it was this episode was them subtweeting us.
I remember messaging you right after I watched it before you watched it, and I was like, yo, like Wu is all of us. Like he's us. Like when he was like, why so many hexagons? I was like, bro, what the fuck? Like that's like
I was like
we're all like, why are there hexagons? Why are things colorized? Why is it a sitcom? That doesn't make sense. And I'm like, yes, fuck you, thank you. Like what you did this. You did this to us.
Yeah,
like,
and
now you're pretending like you don't know. Like,
yeah, and then it's like it's funny though because like this episode was literally us. You know what I mean? Like Darcy, like and like what I'm invested in everything. It's like yes, it's exactly us. You know, like, that is us.
It's like it's real. It's human. It's the human reaction to what's happening.
Yeah,
and, you know, and that's what Marvel's great at.
Yeah, I saw some people think it was like, oh, it was a little too on the nose for me or whatever, and I was like, I loved it, and like it's so funny because like this is fandom at like its biggest fault is that so many people were like, oh, I don't really like the sitcom thing, and then they show you like a real MCU like answering some questions but still giving more questions, and they're like, oh, I really like the sitcom thing, and I'm like, dude, just enjoy the ride and like go with it.
Can't just it's like if they're not getting the exact fan service or the answers they want, it's like they can't see the forest for the trees, and it's like really you can tell everyone bandwagoned it after episode 4. I saw something that made me so mad. They were like, oh, it was almost like they gave you this episode because they knew people were going to stop watching if they didn't get answers soon. And I'm like, no, this was always their fucking plan. They're just smarter than fucking simps like you. It's just like I
mean, like it's not like they switched the episode order to like
it's like trust the process. They plan this. They have shit planned out through 2028 that you're gonna think you have figured out in 2021. Like, shut up, you don't know. Like they had the end of they had Endgame figured out before we knew we were gonna see the Avengers on film. Like you don't. That's what made it so successful. Where like as
100%
might be learning now, but like you have like the DCU where they tried to make it up as they went while trying to catch up with MCU really fast, and they basically tripped on their own feet and then fell into a fucking volcano, but like trying to keep, and now, maybe this is their, I think they're finding their footing now.
Yep.
But it was like, this isn't something that you just be like, hey, let's make a fucking universe. It's like, no, you have to play the long game, build the investment, build the foundations, because there was shit set up 10 years ago that we're just now starting to see come to fruition. And it's like, they knew that. They always had those threads. They probably had a whole list of shit that they were like, we're going to mention this now. We might, and it'll come back, but like, we get it in people's brains. And then, 5 years, 10 years down the line, people are going to be like, oh, they didn't ham-fist this because they introduced it. It makes everything feel more organic, like real life. Like shit doesn't, like advanced idea mechanics started as a think tank. Like everything starts somewhere. Everything starts small, but it makes it more like grounded when you see it from like, the chicken and the egg perspective,
Yeah, exactly. Another thing, speaking of that was on the Star Wars board is that Jimmy Woo wrote down Skrulls. And now I do not think Skrulls will be involved, at least of what's happening inside the alternate reality.
It means he knows about Skrulls.
Exactly. Yeah. Like he is aware that Skrulls exist, which
makes sense. FBI discovered the Skrulls.
But like the thing is, like we don't know who knows about Skrulls. You know what I mean? Like we have no idea.
Yeah.
Like which is awesome. Like I love, and that's kind of building more to the paranoia and like what's going to happen in Secret Invasion, which I'm insanely excited for that whenever that comes out. But yeah, that's a very interesting thing that he knows about Skrulls. Again, I do not think it'll tie into this. If it does, it'll be a very small thing, like say Hayward is a Skrull or something. But
I think it was more so just to like make everyone know that like Skrulls are a thing and are an ongoing thing. It's just like every MCU reference. Like it doesn't. Sometimes the Easter eggs are just there to build the world.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
That was exactly my thought. So, in probably the most terrifying sequence in the MCU ever, we see the whole, not the sequence, but what comes after. We see the whole altercation. Well, I guess another thing to add is that, we'll get more on this later. I'll come back to that. So we see the whole altercation between Monica and Wanda, and she goes full fucking supervillain, and like she is terrifying, and just fucking gets her the fuck out of there.
Scarlet Witch. That was like the Scarlet Witch I remember. You know what I mean?
That's the one we got introduced to. Like she was fucking with all the Avengers, planting these fucked up visions in their heads and shit. Like people forget that the first time we saw her, she was a villain technically. Like she was on the side of Ultron until she found out that he wanted to fucking wipe the slate clean of the Earth and start over.
Yep.
But and then we see Vision come in, and it's like it was almost like she became aware that like, oh yeah, I do have these powers, and like, but she knows what's going on, that this is like a fake reality, and like, or whatever it is, because we still don't really quite know. And I have a little more, I'll get into that after we go over the scene, but we see Vision, and it's his fucking dead fucking corpse animated talking, and then she like realizes that, she didn't make him look like normal Vision and made him look like normal Vision, but like that scene is terrifying. Terrifying.
That was like something out of like a horror movie where you realize that, like, what it actually is, and it made me think of a movie. There was this one episode of was it Love, Death, and Robots?
I never watched that, but on Netflix, right?
You fucked up. Watch that. It's really good.
Okay.
Freaking apology, but there's one where it's like, I don't want to give it away. Well, I don't want to give that away, but like, let's just say, dude, the whole time thinks he's somewhere talking to something, and then you see the something that he was talking to, and it's very much not what you like, uglier and more horrible than it was. Let's just put it that way. But that's what it reminded me. It was like a horror movie.
Yeah.
But it was like my friend, I've been seeing these really weird split theories. Like my friend was like, oh yeah, I think Vision's Wonder Man. And I'm like, bro, like Vision is Vision's dead body walking around with her powers. Like she's playing house with his corpse. Like it's not someone else. It's his dead body, and whatever she's doing or whatever, she's definitely controlling the whole fantasy. She's like I said, like we theorized, and like I was saying, like she can't deal with it, so she made her own little happy place. And anyone who fucks with her happy place and tries to pop her little bubble, she Shutter Island. It's like Shutter Island. She's like, get the fuck out. Like, I can't deal with you. Like, you're not welcome here. And she's just like, and then for that brief moment, she lost concentration because she was like, she broke character, and her lack of concentration, the illusion fell on Vision, at least. And then he realized that, and like Paul Bettany said, you find out what happened to Vision's body. She took it and decided to set it up at the kitchen table and have dinner with it, is what happened. In an essence, which is kind of fucked up. Honestly, if he wasn't a robot, it would have been too much for Disney.
Oh yeah, that would have been like, real fucked up, dude.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like, I think people are looking at it the wrong way. Like they thought that was just her having PTSD, and I'm like, no, like that. I think people are debating what that was when it was a reveal.
Yeah.
Like, do you think there's anything other possibility, or are you pretty sure that like they were trying to show you like, yo, like this whole time it's been his dead body?
Yeah, that I definitely think it's been his dead body the whole time. My biggest question is that obviously we are seeing it, and like the broadcasts coming out are seeing him as real. Like Darcy even goes like, he's not blip dead, he's dead. Like he's dead. And they confirm it, showing it's his fucking corpse with the hole ripped out of it that Thanos put in there. Like it's his dead fucking body. That so she somehow, because even when you see the corpse, like he's talking, like.
Did you notice also that she like put color back into his face? He wasn't all gray like when he died.
He kind of looked the same. Like
there's a screenshot I was looking at where his like when he died he was like gray.
Yeah.
In the show, he's got more of like a purple hue. I'm trying to think of it almost like whatever powered him, whatever the stone did to give him a personality and brought his body to life, she's substituting with her own energy. and then just creating his personality out of her own memories. So she made him sentient and made him him, but at the same time, he's him, so he's naturally inquisitive and smart. So he's starting to like recognize his own lack of existence, I think is what ultimately is going to happen.
That's the big question too, because like he's obviously very aware, especially at the end of the episode. Like he looks terrified to be next to Wanda. You know what I mean? Like he does not look like he like knows something is definitely up. And
my cat just got into my cabinet in the kitchen. Give me one quick second. Hey, what the fuck are you doing?
And I guess my other big thing is that obviously he is, you know, he's got like the facade over him that he looks like he's his old self.
Yeah.
But like when Monica gets shot out, she still has the 70s type clothing. When the like line attached to the beekeeper gets transformed into a jump rope and comes back out and it's a jump rope, like you know
so
what I mean?
Like what she does is manifested in corporeal form. So it's like she's powerful enough to create matter,
but not like living creatures, maybe.
Well,
or maybe.
Well, I mean that brings the question to like, are the babies real or are they an illusion? You know?
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's the big question. It's like, what's reality and what's our perspective? And another crazy thing is like, how do the town people see Vision? Do they see him like how we see him, or do they see him as a dead fucking corpse? Because like, imagine if they see him like a corpse. Like that's fucked up.
That would kind of explain like the weirdness and the awkwardness with Herb and Agnes, but like. Agnes, I feel like, okay, I mean, her name can't be just an Easter egg. Like, it's an amalgamation of the characters. Yeah, so it's like, we have to assume Agnes is who we all think she is. So, like, she's got to know what's going on to some end. So she wouldn't be shocked by Vision's dead body.
For sure. And there's
barely, or why is she there at all? Like, you know, it's like,
I think she's there to influence what's going on. You know,
like
what I mean?
Against the wishes of Mephisto, which I still think.
It's looking more and more like it's Mephisto for sure. Like I said earlier, but I think she's trying to like guide Wanda along whatever Mephisto wants from Wanda. You know what I mean? Like
she seemed almost like scared of like Herb revealing. I don't know. Does that mean she's like just afraid of Mephisto? You think she seemed afraid?
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Wanda? Yeah, I don't know. That's like, again, that's like another question. Like I don't know. But the other big question is like Monica at the end says it's Wanda. It's all Wanda.
Yeah.
And they paint you to believe like it is, but I don't think it's all her, because when we saw her in Endgame, she was more of like at peace. You know?
Yeah.
And now she's like on the verge of a psychotic break or going through one for sure. You know what I mean? And it's like there had to, something
we haven't seen happened.
Exactly. And there's a trailer for next week's episode, and one of the lines from it is her saying, "I don't know how we got here." So like she somehow, that's been erased from her mind of how they got to there. And that's everyone's big question is like, how did we get to this point? Like how did this stuff happen? Especially because, you know, like even Sword coming in, like they dropped a big thing. It's like they were sent there because of a missing persons case. That's why Jimmy Woo is there. You know, this all started because of a missing person. And now they've gotten to a fact where it's like, oh, we have a fucking the strongest Avenger on Earth that took over a town and created her own fucking reality, and is, you know, somehow, because they don't know that it's Vision's corpse. Like they don't know that. We know that because it was revealed to us, but they don't know that. So they think just Vision is somehow alive. So it's like Vision resurrected a fucking synthezoid, and she took over this town. So like that's their new priority. Like they need to find out what the fuck is going on here. You know, so it's like I like I said, I think that missing person is the key to how this all started. And that missing person might be Mephisto. Like all signs are pointing to Mephisto. My AIM theory is pretty much thrown out the window. Maybe AIM is involved somehow, but I don't think so. I think it was something to make people, like, obviously the whole point of the show, case in point with the dry erase board, is that they wanted people to think of these things, you know?
Oh man,
So
it's funny because I keep thinking this next episode. Oh, one more episode and we'll really have something, and then like I feel like it may answer questions we had, but only questions where the answers branch out to where we already are. So it's like any questions we had answers still don't really answer anything beyond where we're sitting right now, and it's like it's still so much just speculation.
yeah, and so the last really thing I want to focus on, I guess, from the episode, unless you have anything else to add beyond this, but they talk about the CMBR, the cosmic radiation. So that dates back to the Big Bang, which obviously connects to TV. But what else was created in the Big Bang? The Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
So that means that her powers are Infinity Stone level powers. You know what I mean? Like her energy radiates that kind of power. So
Yeah.
We brought up, I think in the prediction show, but we talked about how the snap, since the stones activated what possibly could now be the X gene in the MCU. They have not said that, but it could be. But like, could the events of this lead to something like that? Like we talked about how it's the reverse of House of M, where it helps create mutants rather than get rid of a lot of them. And so all of this crazy radiation is definitely going to do something. Another thing, it's in New Jersey. Ms. Marvel is from New Jersey. Does this somehow create the Inhumans? It would kind of be weird to take out the Terrigen mist.
You can't branch off. You can't just like retcon Terrigen. I feel like that's too much.
Unless they make Ms. Marvel not an Inhuman because they're waiting on Inhumans, which is a possibility. Because like we were talking about before, we said it's going to be interesting how they involve the Inhumans. But I think something MCU said she is an Inhuman, but I could be wrong. But it's going to be hard for them to like slowly introduce X-Men and do the Inhumans because they are kind of similar. The way they're created are different, but like they're like two sides of a coin. You know what I mean? They both get powers from this other thing because of something that's inside them. You know what I mean? It's like it's the same thing. Like,
yeah, I always thought that was interesting. I mean, X-Men obviously is way more prominent, but it's always been interesting how they coexist.
Yeah,
we're like. Except with like Terrigen, it's kind of done to you. Yeah. Excuse me. It's kind of like, yeah, I mean, it would be really, I don't know. And then they tried it with the show. I am interested to see how they incorporate, because it's like, do they make it happen all of a sudden? Has it existed for a while? Does the multiverse bring it together? It's kind of like the vampires, you know, like vampires in Marvel are obviously a thing they're trying to bring in. The Dracula,
like Morbius,
rumor or not, with Dracula, we know Morbius and Blade at least. So, and we know that like we're shifting that focus towards the magic stuff a little bit more with Doctor Strange, I'm sure. Even though it'll keep the typical science stuff with like Ant-Man and Captain Marvel in space.
Well, even the magic stuff has been explained as science. Like everything with Thor and Asgard, it's like it's just science we don't understand. So like they've kind of like as much as like all of the shit in the MCU is crazy, it wouldn't happen in the real life. Like they try to root it in real life science. Like that's like all of Endgame. It was based on like quantum physics and shit like that. They like actually talked with quantum physicists to make sure like the lingo was right and like everything they say that makes sense. Like the same exact thing what I was saying with the CMBR. Like,
but you're bringing the devil. You're bringing the devil into it. You're taking a leap. You know what I mean? It's like you're taking that leap into like demons and like hell and like, and granted there's ways to make that work, but we're definitely about to see a very different window. We're going to see the Marvel universe through a different window, and like, and they've had just so much time, especially with COVID, to just like build. I just feel like we're not even, I think we were all kind of like have gotten jaded from just waiting on shit, that we're not going to be ready for like, I feel like we're about to just like overdose on MC lore once all this stuff starts pouring out.
Yeah. Like this episode was like the same length as the others, and it gave us so much. You know what I mean? Like,
it
was crazy.
So like, I mean, I know you want to get to like, we'll get on to Easter eggs, but what do you think? Like, I don't know. I guess I can't really talk about this without bringing up that like possible spoiler thing. So I don't want to say anything. I guess that's Easter eggs. I don't want to say anything to.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's fair. Yeah, because I'm actually like pissed I looked at it, but like the thumbnail baited me. The thumbnail already ruined it. So
well,
I
I
was
saw
like,
one. Well, the thing is, I don't want to talk about it, but the one thumbnail I saw ended up being a fake trailer made by a fan using footage from another movie we both know.
oh, okay.
So it ended up not being what I thought it was, and I saw people sharing it around, and I was like, dude, like this screenshot from a different movie and like not real. So I don't.
That stuff does happen. Yeah.
So I don't, and like I don't know if. But it was also something that we both kind of predicted anyway, so I'm not really super shocked by it. It's kind of hard for me to get mad when a spoiler is something that I was like so sure was a thing.
Yeah, that's fair. So I'll go into my Easter egg list for the episode. So the opening scene when you see Monica come back from being dusted or like she's reformating from like nothing. In the background, it's actual dialogue from Captain Marvel of Brie Larson's character, Carol Danvers, what she said to her in Captain Marvel. It's like when they were handing out kids, they gave her the toughest one, Lieutenant Trouble, and that's when she like comes back. It's like it was like almost like her consciousness like coming back to life as she was reformating, which is really, really cool. When she was running out of her mom's room, her room was 104, which could be a nod to Avengers 104, which is like a huge thing where someone is trying to use Wanda as a power source to destroy the world, and also Quicksilver goes missing. So that could be a nod there. When they get to Sword headquarters,
wait, Photon.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted you to know that I caught that one.
Yeah. So her call sign was Photon in Captain Marvel, but it was obviously on the plaque too, which is the name of one of Monica Rambeau's aliases in the comics. I also believe that her being called Captain Rambeau is a nod to her being the original Captain Marvel in the comics. I do not think she'll obviously be Captain Marvel in the MCU because we already have a Captain Marvel, but I think it was a little nod there. When we get to New Jersey, before that, Monica references, well, Hayward says we have a lot of enemies out in space. The world's a different place. And she goes, we've always had enemies up there. We've had allies too, which is obviously referring to the Korean Skrull War. Obviously, she had a very good interaction with the Skrulls and probably a good relationship over those 20 years, especially being involved in Sword. Yeah. Like how we see Nick Fury with a ship full of Skrulls. Like, obviously,
I mean, decades that these relations have been going on. So
exactly. And then when we get to New Jersey and Monica meets with Agent Wu, we talked about the card trick that he begged Scott to teach him in Ant-Man the Wasp, which was amazing. I loved it.
That was the first thing he does when you see him. It's just like, you're like,
man,
dude, we're so happy for you.
Monica's SUV, the number on it is S8512, which I think is a reference to the 1985 12 issue series, Vision of the Scarlet Witch, which obviously some of this is kind of been taking after. It's when she gives birth to the twins and all that stuff. So obviously there's some comic precedents for that. The perimeter around the town itself, hexagon.
Yep.
What the fuck are the hexagons? That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like I wouldn't go doubting your aim thing just yet.
Maybe. I don't know. A number on the same scans that show you the hexagon shape of the perimeter is A105, which continues on that Avengers. It's Avengers 105, and it's a continuation of the story of Quicksilver being missing.
Yeah.
That's all I really got with this one. There were some other numbers that were like really deep cut stuff that some of that stuff, it's like a little too much for me, but those were the big ones. But yeah, crazy episode. I think next week will obviously be the 80s, but it seems like next week's the Halloween episode too, which I'm very excited about.
Oh man. Yeah, I like.
Well, because like I said, they posted that trailer and the Halloween stuff's in it, so I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think
also crazy. If you haven't seen, so I guess if you haven't, we're close to the end of the episode. So if you haven't seen the special look, which is just on YouTube and Marvel posted it themselves, so whatever. But if you don't want to hear it, I would guess turn this off now. But Vision tries to leave the bubble, which is nuts.
So I wonder what's going to go on.
It seems like the thing shows him going out of it, and it looks like his body collapses. So it's like, is he only alive inside the bubble? We don't know that. It was kind of like the special look from this episode. Like it kind of told us that we were going to see some sword stuff, but it didn't really give anything away. So I feel like with these special looks, they're just showing us a glimpse of what's going to happen and not the overall. Because a lot of people were worried that like, oh, they're showing this to like show people, they're like, oh, this is an MCU show. Like you're going to get some answers. But then after watching the episode, it's like, no, that really didn't give away anything. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, I think that like, I think from here on, like from here on, it's just it's gonna be insane. So it's like we know that. So whatever happens at the end of the next episode, it's gonna be all just fireworks for the next 3. So this is gonna be if anyone's still getting frustrated, they're not getting what they want. Next week's the last week you'll be disappointed. I'm pretty sure. Like
like Bettany said, the last 3 are like the crazy Marvel movie, really like epic kind of thing. But he said episode 6 is where stuff gets crazy. So, like I said, if 6 is crazy and what's happened in the last 2 episodes isn't, I can't wait to see what crazy is.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think we're gonna get a very like mind blow moment in the next episode, even if it's the last 2 seconds.
Like that's like the first 3 episodes were all the big things were at the very end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was Sword is watching this. How we don't know. The second one was the beekeeper with her fucking rewinding her reality. The third one was the Ultron name drop and the twins, I guess. But the big thing was the Ultron name drop. And in this episode, we got the blip. We got like Sword in full fucking force. Vision's dead fucking corpse. Like,
well, we also like oh man, I don't even know. I'm not even gonna go where I was just gonna go. Like, well, no, I guess I'm just thinking like it was almost like they took like 10 years of realizing how well the end credit thing worked, and it was like, what if we made a whole show where every episode was just an end credit scene where you
That's fair, yeah.
Where you salivate the way you do at the end of the movie, where you're like, oh my God. Like, and that's what they did. And it's like, but every week you get a gratification and a little more, but then another end credit scene. It was almost like they made a series out of that suspense.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
And they have teased that there's going to be an end credits scene at the end of, it's not confirmed, but they've teased that there's going to be an end credits scene at the end.
Strange related, like we all or whatever. I don't know. You know what? I'm not gonna, because I feel like every time I'm like, this is gonna happen. Marvel's like, hey, you dumb bitch. Like you know what I mean?
That's always what they do, though. But hey, your theory wasn't all wrong. Vision is dead.
That's true.
The townspeople aren't dead.
Again, is that even a theory? Because we all knew that. Like,
yeah. I mean, we didn't know how he is alive or whatever the fuck. We still don't know.
We don't know if he was brought back to life or still dead. Yeah,
it seems like he's still dead, but something is like he's talking as a corpse. I don't know. It's so weird.
Well, I'm trying to think of. I can't think of what show or movie or book I'm thinking of, but it's not the first time we've seen like someone completely alive with just made out of memories.
Well, it's like it's different, but like it's like Fight Club. Like he's talking to someone this whole time, but he's really just talking to himself, and his mind is showing him someone else. Like he did all of these things with this other person, but it's really him. It's like the same principle, but different. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's why I'm thinking like, is him looking normal just in her head? But at the same time, it's like in the broadcast, they see him looking normal. And another thing I didn't mention that I wrote in my notes is that Darcy says someone is censoring the broadcast because they saw less than even what we saw.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like we saw the beginning of the Monica confrontation.
Also, what supernatural form was like, yo, this should just be broadcasted as a TV sitcom. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's such a big question.
I think they kind of explain it because it's weird. It's like almost like the person who is kind of like behind this can edit it like Wanda can, but they explained why it's being broadcast with the radiation.
No, I get that.
I mean?
Like, why is it taking the format of a sitcom in different decades? Like, what's the meaning behind that? What's the?
I think that's more of like that's Wanda's like ideal of a perfect life. I don't know why it's jumping decades. That I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's the bigger question. Like I can understand the rationale,
no,
like it's her coping mechanism for whatever.
Yeah.
But why is it?
Yeah,
why is the colorization specific to anything? You know, why? What triggers all of it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I hope they answer those questions too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with this, it's like I just keep thinking of the beekeeper thing where it's like we overthink. They make it so you overthink everything, so you never know which thing is the actual thing to think about, and it's like that's what it is, and they're really good at keeping that, going. So I don't know. I keep feeling like every one of these podcasts, we're gonna have like the big blah, but I feel like we keep ending it with like, I don't know, man. Next time we'll figure it. We'll have something next time. Like I think next time we'll really have something though.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, like we said, every episode has given us something. Some things have been bigger than others. I guess that one last thing I wanted to bring up, they mentioned that Vision is obviously dead. When they bring up Ultron, I know they kind of go, is that the first time they mentioned someone from our world? But they don't really mention that he's dead. So I've always thought that Ultron was going to come back, but I don't know if that confirmed it or not.
I mean, the notion that Ultron is somehow the big secret here is like even wilder.
Dude, so in Avengers Disassembled, which leads into House of M, Wanda in like her fucking shit up, it's before it's weird because it's like what's happening now is kind of a version of what happens during House of M, where she creates her own pocket reality and stuff.
Yeah.
But obviously it's not going to be the same as the comics because they never do that. But she does bring back Ultron in like she also like kills Hawkeye, then brings Hawkeye back to life and all this crazy shit. But like she does bring back Ultron. So like I said, I've always thought that Ultron was going to come back eventually because he is an AI. So it's like, even if she destroyed his body, like both hit, like she ripped out his heart and then Vision like blasted the last whatever. But I always felt like he was going to come back eventually, but I don't know.
Who knows, man? I don't even know. I wish I knew more, but I will, but I don't know. Like I feel like I've had a lot more speculation with every other MCU property than this one. Like I still like they really want you in the dark. Like that's the whole thing. You know? And
that's for sure.
It's so cool though. It's like so unique and like it really has this like level of mystery unlike anything else we've gotten from the MCU so far, and it's been fun. And it's definitely all been deliberate in a way that we don't know why yet, but it's all I know it's all going to make sense. Every little thing is going to make sense. I have no doubt.
I think so too.
Whatever
I think so too.
It's going to be, we'll have drinks for the last one.
I don't drink.
Like
I'll bring my rain. I don't drink. So.
Gotcha. That works for me. I was talking about
or a glass of water.
Yeah. Just go some blue milk.
Ooh, blue milk. All right.
But yeah, man. Fuck. How long till the next episode? A week. I hate this.
Yeah. How it always is.
I always feel like when we're doing these that it's been like 3 days since I watched it. I'm like, oh man, the new episode's got to be just around the corner. And I was like, shit, we just watched that. There's like,
yep, exactly.
Like I stand by this. Like a week between 30-minute episodes. Like, how did they do this in the old days? Like before everything was 45 minutes to an hour. You know?
I don't know. I like it though. I love the week to week. I like it.
Yeah, I think it gives I think the problem is just like we're so used to binge culture where
for sure.
Like the instant gratification has made it so it's just like we forgot to enjoy anticipation, and I think they've been good about that.
Yeah, I don't think the show would work as well without it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It wouldn't give this whole like communal experience with like, oh, what do you think's gonna happen? Like, what did you think of this week's? You know what I mean? It's like they're obviously doing it on purpose. I mean, they did the same thing with Mandalorian. Like, that's what part of what made the Mandalorian so popular. It's like every week they're like, holy fuck, like who's gonna show up next week? Like, or like, oh fuck, they said Ahsoka, like we're gonna get Ahsoka. You know, like it's all part of like what makes this shit so popular. It's like a lot of the Netflix shows kind of are like flying by shows. Like obviously Stranger Things is great and stuff like that, but it's like it's talked about for like a week and then it's gone. You know, like with this stuff, it's like we're gonna be talking about this for 9 weeks. Like that's huge.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it makes you wonder. Like I feel like with every episode too, it makes my wonder of what's gonna happen with these other shows even bigger, because you're starting to realize like you've never seen the Marvel. I mean, you've seen Marvel television, but not MCU television.
Yeah, very different.
Like, you don't really know what to expect, and when you see like WandaVision, you think Wanda and Vision, and even though from the beginning my brain was always like, no, it's Wanda's vision. You know what I mean? It's not Wanda and Vision. That was ever supposed to be what that meant, but it just makes you think, okay, Falcon Winter Soldier, spy shit, and blah 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 blah. But like, you realize that whatever predictions you have are going to be overly simplified from what you're actually going to get. And what they've given us with this, it just makes you wonder, man, if like this is what they're curveballing us with, what's Falcon Winter Soldier going to do? What the fuck is Secret Wars going to do? What's Miss Marvel going to do? Like, it's She-Hulk too. That's not that far out, right?
I think that one's early next year.
Okay.
Because I think after this, obviously Falcon Winter Soldier comes in March. Loki comes in May. What If is during the summer. They haven't really announced it, and they said Miss Marvel and Hawkeye are going to be the late 2021.
So I guess the thing that keeps itching at me is like, with COVID determining when the movies come out, how are these going to be affected by the lack of film? Or
I don't know. It really depends on what the movies tie into present time, which obviously we don't know because Black Widow happens, between Civil War and Infinity War. Like, what does that really implicate for present time? I don't know. Like Eternals, like it's supposed to be kind of like through thousands of years. Like, what does that do to affect current time? Like, we don't know. Like, we don't know when Shang-Chi happens. That hasn't been confirmed to when. Like, it could happen during the fucking blip. We don't know when that happens. Like, we have no idea.
I mean, 5 years unaccounted for. It's like,
it's hard. It's just like I don't understand why they're like. I get it because they're gonna make less money, but just put this. Do a hybrid release. Do theater. Like, you're gonna make less money, but if you just keep pushing back movies, it's gonna fuck up everything. Like, it's just gonna.
And it's gonna like which is what made it also good.
Like you're already going. Like, people just want to see these movies. Just put them out. Do a premium VOD, put them on, but put it on theaters too, and see how it does. Like, obviously, it's not going to be like probably not going to be $1 billion box office, but like Mulan on VOD did pretty well.
Everyone took a hit during COVID, and then like you guys are still going to make more money than anybody else is going to make. So just get over it. Like,
DC and Warner Brothers did it with fucking Wonder Woman. Obviously, they didn't make as much money as they would have if it was normal.
I'm sure the Snyder cut will be like what they gauge off of or something. Like, I don't know.
It's hard with that because I don't know if that's getting a theatrical release like Wonder Woman did.
Good point. Yeah, but people are more excited for the Snyder cut than they were about any Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people. It's like both. Like, people are stoked, and then people are also like, "This is gonna fucking suck anyway." So it's like
yeah. I don't know. I guess that's true. I guess I have. I don't have really any expectations, but I feel like it'll be probably cool. Hopefully, for all the work and all the time it went into it. Yeah. I mean, they spent so long doing this. It's like it has to be something.
Yeah, I think it'll be really cool, and I think it'll be very different from what we got before. So we'll see.
Well, damn, man. All right, let's
I guess wrap it up for this week, and we'll see you guys again next week. Thanks for checking this out.
If you're not caught up, catch up. And tell your friends of Metalcore nerds. Let's go.